episode that is recorded live via Instagram Live. So today I want to discuss talking about my top 5 favorite guitars that use Stratocasters. Today is Saturday. Saturday is Straturday, as music people like to call it. Straturday means we salute those that play guitars that are Stratocasters. Fender Stratocasters is a great model of guitars that has been used by so many different people: Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, David Gilmore, Eddie Van Halen, Buddy Holly. A lot of people have either used Stratocasters at some time or have used them so much that they are now kind of associated with Stratocasters. So I want to discuss today my top 5 favorite guitarists that use Stratocasters. So first of all, a little disclaimer. Jimi Hendrix has not made the list. The reason why Jimi Hendrix is not on this list is because although he's kind of associated with Fender Stratocasters, he has his own signature Fender Stratocaster, and he also is known for burning a Stratocaster on the stage of Monterey Pop. He went on to use SGs. He also has a signature Flying V that he used, and he also used Les Pauls at some point. So I really don't associate him with specifically Stratocasters. I associate him with using different guitars, not taking away from his guitars, his guitar specialty and his skills, but I kind of associate him with using different guitars. So he will not make this list. Now, getting into this list, my number 5 person who I think is a great user of Stratocasters and he really knows how to get that Stratocaster sound is Steven Van Zandt. He is most mainly associated with Bruce Springsteen and E Street Band, and he is done a lot of work on his own, a lot of solo work, and he also has his own radio station, the Underground, Little Steven's Underground Garage, which premieres on Sirius XM if you want to check that out as well. So he's one of those people that makes my list as someone who uses the Stratocaster as a rhythm guitar and not usually uses it as a lead guitar, although he does play solos when he's with the E Street Band a lot. But a lot of that work on The Darkness on the Edge of Town, you can hear his Stratocaster a lot on that album. So you can hear, different notes, different rhythms, and he could really get the sound of what he wanted out of his Stratocaster. And he's got a great Stratocaster he's been using for several years now. I believe it's a 1990 90s Stratocaster, Fender Stratocaster. It's got a black body and then it's not a tortoise shell, it's a silver tortoise shell pickguard. So you can see a lot of pictures of him using that Stratocaster and getting that sound of his amp, and that guitar is just one of those things where it's a real interesting way to hear what he's trying to communicate. Hi, Devin. How he's trying to communicate different music, different notes, different things. Thank you, Devin. Different things out of that. So Devin, I hate you so much. So my number 4 greatest guitarist who uses a Stratocaster is David Gilmore of Pink Floyd. David Gilmore used a Stratocaster mainly on the Dark Side of the Moon, which is one of the greatest rock selling albums of all time. So he used that a lot on that album, and that's really how I got started into David Gilmore and learning more about David Gilmore was because he used that Stratocaster and the solo on Time and the way that he used Stratocaster throughout that whole album really defines that album and really makes that album pop and really makes that album unique. And that's one of the reasons why it sold so many copies, because a lot of the things that were going on at the time weren't the same as Dark Side of the Moon. And you see that a lot, even my generation now are they're still listening to that. and they're still going back to that for influence. And depending on what rumors you hear, if you sync it up with the Wizard of Oz, it syncs up with that. I've also heard, as of late, that it syncs up with the next, or the seventh Star Wars movie, Episode 7. So if you played Dark Side of the Moon all the way through, it syncs up with Star Wars. Exactly. So things like that, they're just rumors, and I listen to uh, the Wizard of Oz and Dark Side of the Moon at the same time, and it's kind of eerie how much it syncs up together. And the Great Gig in the Sky is one of those things where it really goes well with the twister that comes in to Kansas at that time. So it's really really very interesting on what is going on in that movie, and that different things are like that. But going back to David Gilmore, his strat work is just amazing. Comfortably Numb, which is probably one of the greatest solos in rock history of all time, in my opinion, really shows what you can do with a Stratocaster, and really shows what you can do when you can push the Stratocaster to its limits, and what kind of sound you can get out of it. And that's one of the things where you can really listen to that song and really hear the different feels, the different notes, the different bends, the different kind of ways that David Gilmour used that Stratocaster to communicate what he wanted to do. So I just wanted that's my number 4 person on my list. Number 3 is probably the innovator of the Stratocaster, and probably the first person that's kind of known for the Stratocaster, and that is Buddy Holly. Buddy Holly influenced so many people he influenced everybody that is on my list. He was basically the innovator of the Stratocaster, and the interesting thing about Buddy Holly was that he played it more like a acoustic guitar, and he didn't really push uh, the high ends of the Stratocaster, because back in the 50s, this was more, you weren't really pushing the limits of a Stratocaster, and you weren't pushing what a Stratocaster could do. So there's a lot of things that Buddy Holly did that influenced so many people. I said this before, but he influenced Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Eric Clapton, David Gilmour, Stevie Van Zandt, just to name a few, and then it's so many others that didn't use Strats, but then converted to Strats later. And it wasn't just the sound of the Strat for Buddy Holly; it was the look for so many people. So many rock guitarists just saw him on late night TV, the Ed Sullivan Show, and really gravitated to how the guitar looked, that sunburst guitar, and then that white pick guard. So a lot of it is just it's the look of the guitar for a lot of those people, and it's the way that it feels, the way that it handles, and the way that it kind of molds. It kind of molds to your body, but it's really more of the feel and the look of it. And that was one of the things with Buddy Holly, was he could not only play, but he could also look really good playing with it. And he's probably the one that's kind of the main person. I said this before, that kind of the main person that has like a signature kind of look and feel to him. And that was probably the main reasons why so many different guitarists got into guitar playing, was because they saw, they saw him playing the Stratocaster, and they instantly went out and bought a Stratocaster that kind of looked like that, or a make and model that looked like a Stratocaster, well, wasn't really a Stratocaster. My number 2 person is a person that switched to Stratocasters after later in his career. Not later in his career per se, but later. He discovered Stratocasters later, and that is Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton, of course, was with Cream, but when he was with Cream, he would use hollow body guitars, the Gibson hollow body guitars, the ES 160 or whatever. I don't know numbers, but the ES series. Excuse me. He used Firebird as well. And then he also had a very beautiful colored Gibson SG that he liked to use a lot. But it wasn't until after Cream, when they broke up, and Eric Clapton was with Blind Faith, that he had this Telecaster that was a Telecaster body but a Stratocaster neck put together. So it was really then that he started to discovered the qualities of and the capabilities of Stratocaster. And after Blind Faith broke up, he really started to go into Stratocasters, and that's how you get Brownie. He is probably main one that he's kind of associated with, and also Blackie. He has two signature models that are made by Fender now. So Brownie and Blackie are kind of those ones that you hear on Layla, you hear on I Shot the Sheriff, you hear on all of his solo hits that came out after he broke up with Blind Faith. And he still uses a Stratocaster, and to my knowledge, he only uses a Stratocaster for most of his concerts. A lot of his concerts, he has different kind of make and models, different tunings for different Stratocasters. So that's probably the main reason why he has different Stratocasters. And a little nod to Hendrix, I heard, is when he plays Voodoo Child, he plays it in just how Hendrix would play it in that drop form as well. So that's kind of the nod to him. And Clapton is one of those people that has a different sound all of his own, and he really made the Stratocaster really speak and really go to what he wanted and push the limits of Stratocaster. And you got to remember that Clapton wasn't using a big amp at this point. He was using a small Fender Tweed amp, Fender Blues amp at times as well. And so he really pushed the limits of that amp and really pushed the limits of that guitar. So you see that, I said this before with I Shot the Sheriff, and Layla's probably the big one that you can really hear that Fender Stratocaster sound, that kind of jangly Fender Stratocaster sound as well. So those are just basically two examples. And again, this video will be posted later on my YouTube page, on my radio calling page, so you can go back and I will post all the links to Clapton's Blackie, Clapton's Brownie, signature Stratocaster, so you can go back and look at those and see what kind of technology was used to make those instruments and how Eric Clapton uses them. So you really want to check this out. My number one person that is associated, someone that is kind of really associated with playing a Fender Stratocaster, is Stevie Ray Vaughan. We lost Stevie Ray Vaughan very, very too soon, and it's a tragedy that we lost him in a helicopter crash. He died in a helicopter crash going in between gigs, but he's the one that really pushed the limits of Stratocaster, and his signature Stratocaster, the number one, as they call it, is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on display, so you can go look at that. There's a big exhibit in Austin, Texas, devoted to Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble that you want to look at too, and that has a lot of his guitars in it as well. But he's one that stuck to one model. It was like a sunburst model with a black pickguard, and played that throughout basically all of his career. And if he didn't play that, he would play a different Stratocaster, and he would have backups in case he broke strings and stuff like that. So you really got to see he was really a big fan of Stratocasters, and he loved the way they sounded, and he loved playing blues on those. And I posted it today on my Instagram. Salute to Stevie Ray Vaughan on today being Straturday, him playing Texas Flood, probably one of his best-known guitar solos and best-known songs. That is one that you want to look at as well if you haven't seen that, and those are people that you want to check out too. All these people on my top 5 list, and I will try to put descriptions to links, or let me rephrase that. I will try to put links in the description on my YouTube page to all these people, so you can kind of get a wide variety of what I'm talking about in these videos. But again, Stevie Ray Vaughan was the person that could, play blues, could play rock, he could play anything that he wanted to, really jazzy stuff as well. And he really pushed the limits of that Stratocaster, and I love the way that sounded, and I love the way the Stratocaster looked when he played it. He was really into that music, and you could see that in that video that I posted earlier today. That he's really in the moment, and he's really into what he's playing. And every note you can feel, every note you can sense it, that he's really playing his heart out in that song that he was playing. So you want to go check that out. So that is my top 5 all-time favorite guitarists who play Stratocasters. Again, number 5 is Stevie Van Zandt. Number 4 is David Gilmore. Number 3 is Buddy Holly. Number 2 is Eric Clapton, and then rounding out number 1 is Stevie Ray Vaughan. That'll do it for this quick episode of Radio Calling live on Instagram Live. I will probably do this once again, probably for my sports aspect. There's been a lot of things going around in the NBA with the NBA free agency that I will talk about as well. So you'll want to check that out. Be sure to click the link in my description to listen to any of my previous podcast episodes that are on YouTube. If you are on YouTube and you would like to search for any of the Radio Calling podcasts, just type in Mr. Daytrooper 22 in the search engine, and that should bring you to Radio Calling. So thank you for joining me on this episode of Radio Calling, the first live Instagram live episode of Radio Calling. Again, my name is Sam, your host, and we'll see you next time.